One thing I really learned from Mark is working with gear and working for drums particularly, and recording drums to tape, because they seem to kind of round the edge, and the Daptones really were like, and Homer. And I noticed that they would record a tape, it would kind of smooth these edges off, and they would do it in quite an old school way and really spend a lot of time dialing the tone of the preamp, the compressor, a lot of times going to like a Silverface Scully 8-track 1-inch machine, and which has quite beefy hot pre's, and dialing the compression so that there's nothing I love more than, like, we'd play in the room in Royal rehearsing something, and it sounds like this in the room, and then you go in the control room and it sounds like this. You know, it's like it's kind of like Phil Spector, I think, kind of had that effect. Like, you'd go in the live room and it just sounds like kind of like a live rehearsal or something, and then in there he'd have his reverb on it and everything, and really make these magical, like, dial a sound. It's a bit of a lost, I mean, I don't say it's lost, but we deal in so much of like loops, and this process is done beforehand so that you can just take something, or kind of the practice of sampling. You just don't have loops, you just don't have to clear, you know, and they're a little more generic and disposable. But I guess the amount of work that goes into creating an ambiance, having a certain amount of air, and there's a various kind of miking situations you can have on your drums. A lot of times, one mic and a kick and a snare is the best sound, or the sound of this kind of retro feeling. But there's a couple more elements that I've found and kind of surprised me over time, is that it really starts with the player. It really starts with the instruments themselves, like tuning the drums, having the heads of the drums either aged or selected for a certain type of sound, and that the drummer is in the know, you know, about what kind of sound he's trying to, you know. James Gadson, another time, early time in my life, James Gadson is, Use Me.
My friends, feel is there appointed duty. Oh, they keep trying to tell me all you want to do is use me.
Bill Withers, that's James Gadson on there. And I did a session with James Gadson, and I saw him carrying in his drum kit and set it up, and he had a kick drum pedal, and he tested it, boom, 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 and it was like, oh my God, that's the Use Me kick. Like, it wasn't the mics and the compressors and the, tape. It was his foot and his drum. Like, that's how you got that sound. So, important to have a drummer that has an image in their mind of how these drums should sound once they're recorded. It's a very subtle, I shouldn't say subtle, it's a very big difference between a drummer who can perform live and project energy into an audience, and a drummer who knows how to hold the energy back on a recording and unleash it gradually and control the energy and play with it, almost like a Tai Chi master